What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It means a whole lot to me. Thank you very, very much. And today we have another return episode. A actress, a writer, a podcaster, a filmmaker, producer, a multiple award-winning actress, BAFTA nominee, part of all things brilliant in this industry, and just someone also looking to make it a much better place. It's so great to have you back, Alexa Morden. How are you?
You for having me. I'm great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. We've already been chatting for almost half an hour. There's so much to get through.
I know. So we were talking about Alexa's love for true crime podcasts. So we're talking about how just this the whole arena of that is so fascinating. So let's start with what makes you so fascinated by the podcasts about the true crime? What's so good
Great
about it?
question. I think this was like a two-part answer. One is that I've always been interested in dark things, like as long as I can remember, even as a child, I was very interested in reading autobiographies from people talking about their childhoods or like horrible things that they went through. And I think at that time it was just, I was very, privileged. I had a nice childhood. So sort of opening myself up to the way that the world can be for other people, I found interesting, but also like my not my duty, but like I want to bear witness to what other people have to go through because that's really unfair. And as I got older, that turned into like true crime stuff. And I think it like when I look at it now, because there's a whole thing to be said about, and Katie and I actually in the 98% for our Halloween, we did a Halloween special last year, and we did a true crime two-part special where we each told each other a true crime story from the entertainment industry. And we
Mhm.
prefaced these episodes by having a really important conversation about how true crime can be done badly and in the wrong way. And I think there's a lot of talk on social media nowadays about consuming true crime and how it's not victim centered and how it's all just glamorized and we see it as some form of entertainment. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but it also can be done very well and in a way that is focused on the victims and actually helps. Like, I know of true crime podcasts that have helped put people behind bars or have helped with the investigation or helped get the word out there about cases. So
Mm.
when I talk about true crime, I only engage with true crime that I feel is morally ethical, I guess. There are ways, and with TikTok nowadays and these 60-second videos of here's the most gruesome true crime case you've never heard of. I do not vibe with that. But
No,
anyway,
no,
as
no,
an
no.
actor, I know I actually find it interesting as an actor because I think as actors, we our job is to make characters human. And the more I can learn about humans, the better I'm going to be at acting and the way that I understand the world. And learning about people who are so on the polar opposite of me as a very kind, compassionate, you know, person, these horrible serial killers. There's just something fascinating about the psychology of like, how can this happen? And also as a woman, the largest percentage of people who consume true crime are women. And I think that's because we get some sense of control. And I know this is very morbid, but I know about the different types of psychopaths now. And I know that if I'm kidnapped, the different ways that I should act depending on their psychology
Really?
and like how to defend myself or how, and it's weird, but it gives us some sense of like, okay, I can learn from these experiences in case I'm ever in a similar situation. But I just, there's just something about it that I'm like, this is so opposite to my life, that learning about these people, is intriguing to me. I don't know if
Yeah.
I now sound like a crazy person, but does that make
No,
sense?
no, not at all. No, what different types of psychopath are there? I mean, there's different categories of them or something?
Yeah, so the one of the big ones I learned, I forgot we're going to go on a tangent now, but
Nice.
basically sadist psychopath killers are the worst ones that you want not that you want to be in touch with any psychopath, but they're the worst because they get off on your pain. So no matter what you do, there's no getting out of it because they want you to feel scared and they're going to do whatever they can to make you feel as scared as possible. So you kind of have no hope with the sadist. But I've heard these incredible stories of these women who have been kidnapped by these psychopathic men and they've been taken into the woods to be assaulted and killed, and these women start talking to the men and trying to engage them in conversation to humanize themselves. And I heard this one story of this woman, and she was being driven to this guy's trailer in the middle of nowhere, and he was telling her what he was going to do to her, which ended up in he was going to murder her. And in the car journey, she turned to him and she was like, I'm so glad that you've got me in your car because I was so scared earlier of like someone coming to get me. And I feel like you've really saved me. And I'm just really happy that we're here together and we can get to know each other. And she started playing into this fantasy because there was something about how he was speaking that made her feel like he wanted this fantasy of having a girlfriend. So she was like, if I play into this. So she did, and put on this face of like, where are you taking me? I'm really excited. Like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Why don't you take me out tomorrow? Like, do you want to, I'm looking forward to what, and talking about themselves in future to give him an idea of what they could be if he didn't murder her today. And he went from tying her up to kill her to allowing her to make a phone call. Like the way that she spoke to this guy, she was like, look, before I go into your trailer, can I just make a phone call to tell my family that I'm okay? Managed to convince him. She ended up calling the police and having this cryptic, making it sound like she was on the phone, somehow gave her location. And the way that this story was being told, she was saying that it ended with her hearing the sirens and she's running while still like tied up towards this hill and the police are on the other side and she escapes. I know. So like and there are other ones like that of the way that like there are some women that decide to, I don't want to say degrade them, but like talk down on them a way to make them seem more powerful. It's just, yeah, it's these things that I think we have all of these fears, as I was saying, especially as women, of what could happen, that we feel like if I listen and I understand these people a bit more, then I feel more confident that I could somehow protect myself. It's wild. But yeah, that story stands out to me because she was able to read this person and understand what, yeah. And other things I've learned, like putting yourself on social media, children, like the child predator stuff and how they use social media now, it's just all kinds of things. And it totally helped my the Bodhi investigation that I did and all the subsequent stuff of you know, sort of trying to pinpoint these nefarious people in the industry. 100% because I engage with true crime. Like there was a point where when I did the whole Bodhi thing, which I think I said last time was like 9 days of 14-hour days, I was able to do that investigation because I was thinking, if this was a true crime documentary, what would the person being interviewed say that they did next? And that's literally what I did. So I was like, right, they would start a Google Doc and they'd put all the evidence in there. Okay, they'd talk to these people, they'd get this evidence, they'd report to this place. And because of that, I was able to do what I did basically. And with these other people as well, there's things I've learned about, you know, let's talk about the men that have been exposed, that I've sort of helped expose, of the MO that they have and the lies that they tell and the way that they schmooze people and the way that they use other industry professionals to legitimize themselves, and the love bombing and the gaslighting and the money being the main aim, like everything for them is through a financial, you know, lens. And it was only like a lot thanks to my engagement with true crime that I've been able to see these men as criminals, because a lot of people who are involved with them, they're their agent or they're their showreel filmmaker or whatever, and they see them as a person, and it's hard for them to grapple with, oh my gosh, they also do this. But because I've sort of been an outsider and I've looked at it objectively, I've been able to notice these red flags from the off of like, no, these are criminals who are acting this way to get what they want. They're not just men/people who have a bad streak, like they are, yeah, nefarious.
No, it's fascinating about it. Just and I often find that performances that I'm really drawn to are people who play really bad people. Like, for example, Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, Anthony Hopkins, Hannibal Lecter. And one that really stuck with me recently is I'm gonna get her name wrong. Wait, hang on. Let me just do a quick Google search. The lady who played Martha in Baby Reindeer. You know,
I still haven't watched that
oh my
because
words.
I'm preparing myself.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that she is incredible. And you know what
yeah.
made her performance so good, even though I haven't seen it, which is what I was about to say, is that these actors, they don't play the bad guys as bad guys. They play them as humans. And that's sort of
Mm.
the point I was saying about listening to true crime, of understanding human psychology, is these, like Hannibal Lecter, even is in his mind, he's not necessarily the baddie. Like, he is the main character in his life. So when we take these people and these characters as humans instead of just, oh, this is the villain, and like Heath Ledger, perfect example of like,
Of course, Heath Ledger. Yeah,
you see this complex. Oh, you mentioned Joaquin Phoenix, but yeah, Heath Ledger
yeah.
came to mind.
But
You
well,
see this,
both of them are
yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, you see this human who is doing this bad stuff, and you ask the questions of what made them bad, as opposed to them being
Mm.
this idea of a villain.
Yeah, and I've just read Jessica Gunning. That's the actress's name, by the way.
Now,
Um, big shout out to her. She's done some incredible stuff, and her performance in Baby Reindeer is just you don't see Jessica, you see Martha. That's how good it is. You can't. When you see a great performance, you're like, oh wow, they're doing really well. But that was one of those performances like Heath Ledger, like Joaquin Phoenix, where you don't see the actor, you see the person that they're playing.
what I love
Yeah.
about her particularly is when we see actors like that who aren't names, like the other people you mentioned.
Yes.
And yes, I watch those people. I watch Joaquin Phoenix doing a really good performance of the Joker. But when I see more unknown actors playing roles like this, as you said, you just see the character. And that's why I'm like, why isn't there more of a push for unknown talent? Because every time that there's a more unknown actor doing a role like this and completely nailing it, there's always people coming out shocked or surprised, as if we could find someone so amazing that isn't, an A-lister already. And it's like, newsflash, there's millions of us out here.
Yeah, there are plenty of us, guys. There's two of us right here.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you what, another film that did that really well was did you see 1917? It's Sam Mendes.
no, I okay, I don't want to put my foot in it, but I have to be in the right frame of mind to watch war stuff. My
Okay.
husband loves war stuff, but I've seen a lot of war stuff, and I know I should watch it because of the takes and the camera work and stuff like that. But I think at the time of it coming out, there were just other things that I was maybe more
Yeah,
interested in.
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. For anyone who hasn't watched it, it's a one continuous shot. The whole film. You follow George Mackay and the other actor. I'm sorry, I've forgotten their name. But yeah, and there were two lead actors who were relatively unknown. I'd seen George Mackay do the caretaker at the Old Vic a few years beforehand, and he was brilliant. By the way, he was fantastic in that. And then I saw him. I thought, wait, where have I seen this guy before? And he was like, jobbing actor, and now he's you could say he's a household name now because. And I read an article somewhere that Sam Mendes said he wanted to, because the show's all about, the film's all about two young soldiers just fulfilling a task behind enemy lines. They have to travel through German infested lands and try not to be killed to pass on a message. And that's what I'll say. And the film is the journey from A to B, pretty much. And he said it in this interview, he wanted to cast two actors which were relatively unknown to play the leads because so that would sort of communicate the message of these two young soldiers who you've never heard of, you never knew their names, and of course there are so many soldiers who I would imagine that did die in the First World War and Second World War, who there's no record of them. You know, there's no record of them anywhere. So except in family pictures or family, well, maybe not even that. Maybe they didn't have a family, but. But that was the point, to say that these two unknown people were of carrying out this dangerous task, and that if anything, it makes you think about all those guys in the First and Second World Wars, and then you go, wait, but who are those actors? Who
Yeah.
were they? And then and what was also interesting is that all the A-listers or made actors were the ones playing the smaller parts. You had Colin Firth, who had screen time of maybe 5 minutes. Benedict Cumberbatch was on screen for maybe 5 minutes. A few, Adrian Scarborough, who's in it, who I know you've worked with as well.
Love
Yeah, he had a screen time of literally 5 minutes as well. Or he was in the scenes with Benedict. So, but yeah, but
That's
that's the
the
thing.
answer when people go, oh, but you know, you need names to draw in money or, you know, bums on seats and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but why can't it be done like that? Because
Yeah,
you get the big names, you get the people coming, but you also use that as an opportunity to platform new talent. And it's the same reason why La La Land, as much as I wanted to be as in love with it as everyone else, that it
yeah,
just didn't sit as amazing with me as it could have, because I was thinking, I'm watching two of the biggest actors in Hollywood right now playing jobbing, struggling performers. And yes, they may have been that at one point, but they sure as hell aren't now.
no, no, they're okay now. Yeah,
I'm like, I'm watching you play an idea of something that, can you imagine if those two roles were given to actually, you know, new up and coming, struggling musical theater performers or a musician? And not only could we watch that with a different lens of like, oh my God, this is actually what they've been going through, but
Mm,
also the success of that film would have then platformed them to have an incredible career. And instead, we give it to two people that we've already seen a million times, who I love, and they're brilliant actors. But I couldn't help but be like, oh, this feels like a missed opportunity, because it's sort of meta to do a. It's kind of like The Color of Spring, which I know we'll get to, but I was playing an actor, you know, desperate for her next role. And
mm.
the way that I was able to approach that character is so different to how Emma Stone would have approached it at this time in her career, you know.
Yeah. It's like look at us, we're playing budding actors. It's like, guys, come on, we're not buying this. Come on. No, I haven't seen La La Land actually, and I hear, yeah, not so great things about it. But yeah, I mean,
I think it's a great spectacle, and you know, it's a good film. Um but yeah, I just, and people say to me, but it was this huge budget thing, like they need to attach names. And I was like, okay, but what if we change the marketing? And instead of the marketing being, come look at these huge, you know, famous actors doing brilliant work, if we change the marketing into, come look at these two people that we found who are ready to like take this industry by storm, and we're
yeah,
going to help them get there. Like if you marketed it that way, I think
yeah,
people would have been just as excited, but in a different way.
yeah, exactly. And I think that was the genius of Sam Mendes in that film, which I know you say you have to be in a mood to watch war films and stuff, but honestly, it's
Watch it as a filmmaker instead of
yeah.
someone watching about
Oh
war.
yeah,
How
yeah.
about
Even yeah, especially if as a filmmaker, which you are, I mean, it really, really is worth a watch. I can't recommend it enough. It's definitely one of my favorites. So yeah, no. So we mentioned filmmaking there, which is a good leeway on to our main topic for today, which is of course your films, Alexa. So just before we get into them, is there a way for anyone who's listening or watching to this? Where can they see them? Where can they see your films? Because they're on Vimeo, but is there another way that they can
Yeah,
see
there's a
it?
couple on Vimeo. There's some on, you know, streaming services now. I think if you go on my link tree, which is in my social media bios, the
Yeah,
ones that are on Vimeo or online, I think I have listed of like, watch Standby, watch Hers, watch this, watch that. And then the other ones, you can check like streaming stuff. Or if there's something in particular you want to watch, message me and I can tell you where to find it. But now that I'm in I spend a lot of time in Canada. I'm not sure what's on the UK streaming stuff as opposed to the North American stuff. But like The War Below, for example, a brilliant independent feature war film
War film.
I was in. I still haven't seen because it's on like UK streaming, but I haven't been able to find it here yet. And I only had a very small role in that, but with Tom Goodman Hill, who was such a lovely guy and great to work with. But that's still one that I'm waiting to see myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, go on my link tree. Definitely my short films are there. And yeah, I'd love for people to watch and let me know what you think. It's
Yeah.
on the 98%, we make a point to not talk about work. And now I get to talk about my work, which feels a bit different, but also very welcome and lovely. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, great. Let's hear everything and everything about it. So we're going to talk about a few. I mean, time will prevent us from talking about all of them, but we've got a few which I'd really love to speak about, which I have seen, by the way. And by the way, they're brilliant, wonderful films, by the way. Congratulations. We'll start with the first one, which is a short film called Standby, which was actually nominated for a BAFTA.
Yes. So I am not the BAFTA nominee in that. That would be Charlotte, who wrote and directed it, and Jack,
Yeah.
who produced it.
Was it Charlotte Regan, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And but because it's a two-hander, it's like a short sort of co-starring scenario. I was able to go to the BAFTAs as Charlotte's plus one, and that was just, as I said in the last episode, like an incredible experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, now people might know Charlotte as the writer-director of Scrapper, which is a feature film that did very, won at Sundance and got a cinema release. And she does incredible work sort of highlighting working class stories. But Standby was actually Charlotte's graduating piece from film school. And
Mm.
she messaged me on Twitter, sort of saying that she liked my work, and would I be up for meeting for a coffee about this short film that she was doing. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll meet for coffee. And she told me about it, and I really liked the idea. And God, if I'd known then what I knew now, what that journey would be like. And then it was just, yeah, I'll do a short film. And funnily enough, my agent at the time wasn't that keen on me doing it because I was also in the mix for this theater job, and like the auditions and the recalls were around that time. And I was also filming Batiste commercials. I was like one of the faces of Batiste at one point, funnily enough. So they wanted me to keep days free for stuff. And it was paid, I think, but not very much. So my agent was sort of like, we think you should, just keep stuff free. And I was sat there thinking, okay, so I either have the option to do a job and be on a film set, or not be on a film set, but thinking, what if other things? So I chose to do it, and thank goodness I stuck to my guns, because look what happened. It premiered at TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. It was like a reviewer's favorite. And then from there, it just skyrocketed. It was a Vimeo staff pick. It got like 250,000 views in the first 2 weeks of release, I think.
Yeah.
It got recognized at the BFI, and then it got nominated for Best British Short at the BAFTAs. And yeah, it was, I think, just 2 days filming. And it was, yeah, a lot of it was improvisation. I was thrilled to be there, but also it was quite early in my career. So I also had that thing of like, I need to be good. I have to make a good impression. But I think the fact that Charlotte let us improvise a lot sort of helped me just relax into it. And the way that it was filmed is really interesting because so for those who haven't seen it or are thinking of seeing it, it's about two police officers. It starts where I'm like the new police officer, the new partner to Andrew Paul's character, Gary. I play Jenny, and we start off as we're new partners, and he's a bit frosty towards me. And then by the end of the 5-minute film, things have happened and we're closer. But it was filmed with, we were in the police car with the camera just on the dashboard, and then Charlotte and the team were in a car in front of us, and it was all through walkie-talkie. So it didn't feel like we were being filmed, because it was just this camera. Oh no, it wasn't on the dash, it was on the bonnet, like it was
Yeah,
rigged up bonnet.
because you had the windscreen being filmed as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was no other camera angles. It was just that camera angle. And yeah, it was all through walkie-talkie. So there were some times where Charlotte would say through the walkie-talkie, okay, now let's improvise this. And then she'd go quiet for 10 minutes. And me and Andrew would just be chatting or like improving things, singing along to things on the radio. And I think that's why it really caught people, because it's this short and sweet and funny 5 minutes of just watching these two characters go through their job. And it was also really funny filming with Andrew Paul. For those who might recognize his name or his face when you see it, he was in The Bill for a long time.
Mhm.
And because he was dressed up as a police officer, he was being recognized around North London by fans of The Bill, thinking that he was like reprising some role, and we were like, no, this is something else. But he's obviously he's worked in this industry a long time, and he was so lovely. And I was, asking questions about the industry, and he was in Bugsy Malone, like the Bugsy Malone movie that I would watch religiously as a child. So that was exciting to me. And
But
it was,
yeah, but what was he in the film? What was he in Bugsy?
oh, I think like a small role. I
Okay.
don't think it wasn't like one Fat Sam or whatever, but I think he was very young at the time himself.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, and it was just really fun. And at that point I was just like, okay, yeah, it's a couple films on, like a couple days on this film, and then it's ended up being one of the things I'm most proud of and excited to talk about in my career, because I just love how it encapsulates, you never know what's going to happen in this industry. And if you have a vision, like Charlotte had a very clear vision. She's clearly incredibly talented. She's been commissioned to write and direct a series for the BBC now.
Wow.
And she had this vision. She saw it through. She made this incredible, welcoming, supportive set of her and, her film school friends and colleagues. And she's just the most humble, modest, talented person I think I've ever met. And just being a part of the beginning of her career is so special to me. And I still chat to her now and and thank her and share how honored I feel, because everything that she's doing now, the fact that Standby was sort of her presentation, or like stepping into the industry, and how a student film could then be nominated for a BAFTA alongside these huge budget, star-studded short films, which the one that ended up winning was, these very well-known actors with probably millions of pounds behind it. And the fact that she could make this piece of work that could stand up against all of these other things with nothing but her vision and her passion and her talent is just so inspiring to me. And I'm so grateful that she saw something in me and wanted me to play Jenny in her premiere sort of film. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's done something that not many films can do, because it's so short. Like you say, it's literally like 5.5 minutes. But in that 5.5 minutes, it's able to show how a relationship can grow, blossom, and become something really, really important to both people in literally a matter of minutes. I mean, through the really simple tasks of, like, you see, like, I think one of your sort of opening like tasks to do whenever you get in the car is to hand him the coffees, or you hand him like a bag with a muffin in it or something. But it's always the coffees there, and then it's like, what was the line? Is it, yeah, one sugar? Was that, yeah, one sugar? Yeah. And he was like, okay, cool. And then that's like the first couple, and then the second time it's like, coffee. It's like, okay. So, and just that small bit of trust, and then there's I hope I'm not giving too much away when there's a beautiful scene where you guys are sort of becoming a bit more closer, and he drops you off, and you're all dressed up in this nice dress, and then you go, all right, go on, you have a good time. And then the next scene, you're kind of like you're crying into your hands, and he's going, no, you didn't need him anyway. You didn't need him. So there's better people out there. And it sounds really kind of, yeah, but that's what people do anyway. But just what you guys and Charlotte did was just really get it all down in 5 minutes. I mean, that's quite something.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, she definitely had a lot more than 5 minutes to choose from. And
Yeah.
even the original script is longer or had more scenes in it than what was in the finished piece. I would
Mm.
love to see like a 15-minute cut or
Yeah.
something of all the different
Yeah.
scenes.
I wanted to see more. I want to see more of
Yeah.
you guys.
But
Yeah.
that what I think is what she did really well is that she cut it at a time that she was like, okay, let's leave people wanting more.
Mm.
Yeah, I still have the original script somewhere, and written out on the front is the lyrics to shut down, right? And
Shut down.
I mean it's what's now I've forgotten it, but I still know all the lyrics. Because she was able to wait, I'm gonna have to make sure that
Yeah,
I'm
we want
gonna
to do a quick search. Do a quick search. Shut
um,
down. Yeah. Who
it's
sang it?
Spectre, and it's right. Because she was able to get that song because she knew someone who knew someone that he allowed her
To use
to
it.
get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she wanted us to be rapping along to one of the chorus of it, but I, being me, and learned the entire rap and turned up, and I was like, we can like do the whole thing. And she goes, I only have the rights to share this small amount of it, but yeah, it is shut down. And that Ring Ring Pussy had shut down. Fashion Week and it shut down. Went to the show sitting in the front row in the back tracksuit and it shut down. Like me and Andrew, that was so fun. That was one of my favorite moments because I was helping him learn the rap so that
Uh,
when actually filming doing it, there was a couple times when we got through it all and then we were looking at each other like, yeah, we actually did it. So it was like a lot of fun, and
yeah.
I'm so excited to see what is coming for Charlotte's career because
Mm.
clearly a talent and one to watch, and actually love it. Like, I love to say that the industry is recognizing that, because there's a lots of talented people out there that don't maybe get the recognition that they deserve, but she is, and she deserves it. And yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
What happens exactly? Yeah, it's and how many takes did you guys do of that rap scene?
Oh, I couldn't even remember. It was as I said, it wasn't even like, okay, now we're going for this take and cut, let's do it again. It was literally just, okay, camera rolling, this is the situation. You've just picked up this person, you're arresting them for this, action. And
Oh.
we just go on until we heard cut. And then she just picked. So there would be some times where we do something else. Okay, now let's do a bit of the rap, and then we do something else. Okay, now let's do a bit of the rap again. Because we were also filming at all times of the day. We had a couple like ones when it was dark as well. But luckily, I think it was February or something that we shot, or sometime during the winter where it got darker earlier, which is good.
Mm.
But yeah, it's so long ago now. I haven't, yeah, to think about it is and what that sort of played in, because I've met people here in North America who went to film school. Like, I have one thing when I was filming The Color of Spring in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and the third assistant director came up to me like a week in, and he was like, I know this is weird, but I really recognize you, and I didn't want to be weird about it, but I figured out what I know you from. And I was like, what? And he said, we studied standby at film school. Like, standby is used at film schools now, and I've heard this from more than one person, as a teaching opportunity of this is what you can do with one camera angle, 5 minutes, and two actors.
Yeah.
Like, it's used as a lesson of storytelling and filmmaking. And so this third AD couldn't place me and figured out he'd studied a film I was in at film school and was now working with that actor that they were like having to write about a year later. So that was a crazy moment for me.
Yeah, again, you never know where these things will take you and where they will pop up. So that's amazing. One thing I thought about for that was I know some people I went to drama school with, they shot a short film in a car as well, but they didn't use they sort of used it at different angles through the windows and stuff, and they said that they couldn't quite. I mean, I could be getting this wrong, but it's something on these lines that in standby you see the one camera angle is you guys in the passenger seat and the driver's seat, and you see the windscreen in front of you there, and like you say, it was all filmed in the back of a car that was driving in front of you. And they said that they found it really difficult to try and get the shot which they wanted, which was the panoramic shot, but for some reason just the lighting didn't work because they shot it at night as well. So like the lights coming down and stuff, a reflection, I don't know. But they said it was tricky to do that without it looking a bit kind of like it didn't quite work. Was that how did Charlotte sort of combat that?
That's a good question. I can't really remember. I'm sure there was like reflected, some sort of lighting thing. I know that we had a fake light, I think, in the car, or with like a there's like colored sheets that you put over lights.
Yeah.
I think it was one of them. But I mean, that's a reason why I'm not a technical of like
Okay.
lights, and that's why I'm not a director, because all those things is just like so much to have to think about.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was just shooting in the daytime, and then any of the nighttime stuff we had there. Yeah, I think that there was like one light in the car sort of shining down on us, and then there must have been another one, but again, this is like 10 years ago now, so
Okay.
I'm going to remember.
That's okay. No. Just thought to ask, really. Because interesting, like you mentioned there, because we all made our own short films. I think I mentioned in our last episode that we all made short films at drama school, or I've mentioned it in another episode. So, yeah, we all create our own stuff. And I tell you what, my appreciation for directors, for film crews, to lighting guys, to editors, my respect to all of you, whether you're working in the A-listers or on your own independent stuff, my respect for you guys has gone through the roof. I mean, honestly, I'm not a technical person. I do basic editing like with this podcast and stuff, but what these people do, like the vision they have, the way they set up everything and how they're in charge of everything, I honestly, I applaud all of
Yeah,
you.
I join that, and that's one of
Yeah.
the main. I've done a couple talks and seminars and workshops on working in film and working in independent film, and that's one of the biggest things I say is like everyone there is doing their job and they're doing it amazingly, and we as actors are not better than anyone else just because we're in front of the camera, because the camera
Absolutely
wouldn't
not.
be there, nothing
Absolutely
would be
not.
being made if it wasn't for everyone else. And yeah, I mean, my parents used to say to me, oh well, because I've always liked directing. In terms of when I was younger, I would direct plays, or I'd direct my sister to be my co-star in the living room, or like at school I would help the director or the teacher, block out scenes. So as I got into TV and film, my dad was like, why don't you look into directing? And I was like, hell no. Do you know what a director, like, directing actually isn't that much working with actors. If you listen to like film podcasts interviewing filmmakers, they very rarely actually talk about the directing of the acting or the actors, because it's everything. It's the vision, the mood boards, the storyboards they have to make, the camera angles, where the camera is, what the lighting's going to be, the sound, and then they're in charge in the post, like editing it together, like they're directing it in the editing suite, because the movie you make isn't going to be the same as the one. Like, it's a whole other thing that I would be too much for me,
Yeah.
especially, you see actors do it when they sort of hit the big time and they're A-listers, and then they start moving into directing, and I'm sure that would be great, because by then you've had so much experience and you've learned so much. But it is so much work, and you just don't think about it turning on the TV or a film, of everyone involved. Like, I recommend people listen to the episode of the 98% where I have Erin on, who's a second AD, and she really breaks down like life on set,
Mm.
and how much and how many people go into making a thing. So I'm totally with you there. Like, everyone's skills and the way that they work, like, God, I just get so frustrated at cocky, arrogant actors who act as if actors are like the most important person there, because whatever time you turn up on set and whatever time you leave, there will be 50 other people there 2 hours before you and 2 hours after you, like
Yeah.
getting paid a fraction of what the actors get and barely any recognition afterwards. So
Yeah.
huge shout out to filmmakers and all parts of the team on film sets.
Yeah, I look at people like Bradley Cooper, who's done Maestro recently, being Leonard Bernstein and directing everything as well. I look at him and I think, how are you doing that? How?
Millions of dollars probably is
Yeah,
what else.
yeah, that helps, yes. But at the same time, you've got to play one of the most celebrated composers and conductors of the last century. And you've also got to think about, okay, what shot do I want there? What music do I want there? Which bit do I want to direct here? How do I get? I mean, have you seen the film, Maestro?
No,
Okay.
I haven't seen any of these films. Bad
There's,
act.
no, there's one very good scene in that where he, as Leonard Bernstein, conducts Mahler's second one, like the final movement, and he's got one of these cameras that's following him around, and it's a huge cathedral as well, and shot probably like late into the night. And I'm thinking like, I think I saw an interview which says they had to wait for like a whole year before they can have permission to film in that cathedral as well, or something like that. So you've got to wait for the planning permission. You've got to set up all the cameras. You've got to act as Bernstein. You've got to conduct an orchestra, which he isn't. That's not being critical of him. He can't conduct because it's what he said. And you do all that stuff, and I'm going, how are you doing that? Yeah, seriously.
Before that, even before getting to set, you have to scout for location, you have to do the
Yeah,
budget, you have to, and I think I remember my first ever time on a film set and how little interaction I was getting with the director, and I was sort of like, oh my God, I'm not used to this, like doing theater and going to drama school. You're constantly, the director is constantly giving you notes or giving you things to think about. And
yeah,
suddenly I turn up on a film set, and the only time I see or hear from the director is when they come in and tell us that the camera angle is going from a wide to a why can't I think of the word? Close
yeah.
up.
Close up.
Or
Yeah,
like, now we're switching and we're going to do your coverage and we're going to do your coverage. And there was no actual, okay, can you try the line this way? Or can you think of like, the impetus being this? And once I got out of my head of, the other actors saying, no, this means that you're doing a good job. If he's not having to hold your hand and tell you what to do, that means that you're delivering. But
yeah,
also that idea of going, oh, he's not talking to me about my given circumstances because that's the last freaking thing he's thinking about. He's
mm,
thinking about, when is lunch? Are we going to overtime? How many more setups do we have? Whose coverage have we got? Where's this person? We need them on deck. Are you mic'd up? Where's the lighting? It's really cold in here. We need some space heaters. Like, these are all the things that we're thinking about. He's not going to come
yeah.
up to me and give me a different line reading. Like, that's up to me to do.
Yeah, you say your actors, you're at the bottom of the of the list in that case, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good
No.
thing. But also, it stresses how much of the work that the actors have to do as well. Because I had the same thing, same thought as you. When you're being in theatre a lot, you're around the director all the time. You're constantly getting feedback. Whereas then you get on set, and like you said, the director's not with you all the time, and you think, "Oh, am I not doing it right? Do you want me to do more of this, more of that?" But actually, it's from what I've read and what I've experienced, it's a lot more on you. You're there to do the job,
Yeah.
and as best you can. The director is not there to teach you how to act, and you're not there to teach the director how to direct. You are there to do what you do. And there's we'll get onto your short film Hers in just one second, but I just want to get the story in. Is it Arnold Schwarzenegger told this story about James Cameron when they did Terminator? I think it was 1985 it came out, right?
You asking me? Ask
Yes.
my husband, he know.
Okay. So it was in the okay. It was in the 80s. Okay, and 85. Let's go with that. And the story is famous because the famous line, "I'll be back." He said to the director, "I'm not." I think the Terminator wouldn't say that. I think the Terminator will say, "I will be back." because it's like, no, I don't think he's a machine. He doesn't talk like this. And James Cameron just went, okay, right, let's make this simple. Okay. I don't teach you how to act, but you don't teach me how to write. I wrote, I'll be back, and that is what you will say. And he was like, okay, okay. And the rest is history. So yeah, you're there to do the best job with what you've been given, and you're not there to teach the director how to direct, unless you're Bradley Cooper.
And even if you do have a note from the director, you'll oftentimes hear it from the third AD or the second AD, because the
Yeah.
director is off in Video Village doing something else, that you might get something from them. And so when I do my like sessions with Acting with Alexa and clients and actors, I've had a couple who are getting ready to go on set, and it's their first telly job or it's their first, ongoing filming. And one of the things I say to them is it will go very, very fast. You will maybe feel ignored at times, or you'll feel like it isn't as big as exciting as possible, but that's how it's going to be, and that's the right thing. Because if the director is coming up to you after every take and you've got a 3-line role in a scene, then that's not necessarily what you're hoping for, because they've cast you off your audition knowing, okay, they're going to turn up and they're going to do the job. And yeah, of going, don't go expecting that this is going to be some big, exciting, and the director's going to come up and tell you what a good job you're doing. Actually, on the flip side, not hearing anything at all, you can take that as doing you're a good job, because if you're
Yeah.
not meeting their expectations, or if you're not delivering what they want for this scene or for this project, they're going to tell you, because they want to do the best they can. So if you don't get anything, then don't take that as a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Even if things are falling behind, it's like, come on, come, we'll keep going. We got places to be. So we've got lunch in 2 minutes. We need to get this take done now. And I'm sorry, there's another story that's come up. And another one I'm reminded of what you were talking about just there was of DiCaprio in Django. Is that famous scene
That's the glass.
in the glass. Now you've seen Django, right?
I have a couple
Okay.
times.
Yeah, the famous scene where and you still see it every time I watch it. I'm still thinking, like when he screams and he smacks his hand on the table, slices his hand open, and you can see the blood is pouring down his arm, and you're thinking, and what I found brilliant about that was A, that he just carried on, B, he probably used the pain to sort of fuel his anger in that scene even further, and C, the director or Tarantino just simply went, oh, should we stop? No, 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 keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
And then he's got one of the most famous scenes, I think, in cinema history. And then I heard a story that when they did eventually go cut, and the whole set rose to its feet and gave him a standing ovation for carrying on. And I just thought, but
Mm.
that's amazing. But B, it was like to try and save time. Tarantino was like, "Oh, just Quentin, we've got to stop. We've got to get medical assistance. So shh, we need the
Yeah.
scene. We need the scene."
This reminds me, actually, you're now bringing me to another point of, I think as actors, especially actors in the 98%, where, we're working our side hustle and, we're wanting to book a job. And when we finally do book a job, it's everything to us. Like,
Mm,
this day on set is what we've been working towards for the past 2 years.
yeah.
And then when we get to set, it can sort of burst your bubble to go, you're not actually that important, or like you're not the main character here. And what I mean by that is, when you're doing a scene, this is a lesson I learned, is if you're doing a scene and maybe you mess up a line, or you deliver a line not in the way that you want to, or you feel that you're not quite in it, or like that glass thing, you knock over a prop or you trip over something, and then you as an actor, you want to stop because I want to go back and start again, because I want to do it this way, or I want to not make this mistake, or I want to not trip over here. Do not ever cut the scene yourself. Do
Mm,
not ever stop midway through a scene, because that scene could be perfect for B-roll or for capturing something else in the background.
mm.
Finish the scene until the director says cut. And then if you want to pull them aside and go, look, can we just do one more? Because I really felt like, they might say no, but if they say yes, great. But don't get in this main character syndrome of, this is my big break and this is my day on set and I haven't done this the way I wanted to, so I'm going to ask them to start again, because all that will do is piss people off for
Oh
exactly that thing.
yes.
The
Yeah.
time it takes reset, to go back to ones, and you don't like they're also, even if the coverage is on you, the other character is saying lines, they might use the first 30 seconds of your take and then cut to someone else's coverage for that moment that you knocked a prop over, and then come back to you for the next bit. You never know how they're going to edit it. So don't fall into the idea of like, this is my one chance and I have to do it the way that I really want. Otherwise, I'm not going to feel good about it. You just have to think of all those things that the director is having to think about and just be a part of the cog in the machine that's all working together, as opposed to this is my big moment and I'm gonna do it my way, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another thing. Sorry, we will get onto your film in a second, but some of these really great things keep coming up. Someone made a point. I think it was Bradley Cooper who made this point actually about he doesn't like saying action. Like he goes, cameras rolling, and something like off you go, because it's almost like it's almost like action now act, and it's like, and he doesn't like that in a way, but you know he talks about that. And there's another story of Clint Eastwood who doesn't do action. Apparently, he goes, he'll just be behind the camera, like waiting to start, or on the scene waiting to go. And apparently, he'll just go, "All right, go ahead."
Yeah, my most recent short film, Stuffy, directed by now a friend of mine, Dan Nichols. He's wonderful. I think he does that. Instead of action, he would say, you know, rolling, you know, sound speed when you're ready. So that then the actors, we can then take a moment and go when we're ready. And he was like, if you need 3 minutes, I will roll for 3 minutes before you start the acting.
Yeah.
But exactly that thing, yeah, of it's not like 3, 2, 1, go. It's just, okay, the technical stuff is ready. So now we're ready for you when you're ready.
Yeah, off you go.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. Yeah, whereas like action, and it's like, okay, act, okay, and then suddenly you're like, oh, okay, all right, let's go. But then you're trying to like get it all back together in a way or something like that. But yeah, apparently Eastwood, when he doesn't say cut either, he just goes, that's enough of that. All right, stop now. We've seen enough of that for one day. But yeah, anyway, on to yourself. So Hers is another short film of yourself, which was also significant because it involves your 98% co-star Katie. And so a big shout out to Katie. The film was described by, I think, one critic as something from the quote Fleabag scriptures, and of course it was written by yourself. And did you and Katie wrote it together, or was it just yourself?
I wrote it, but she definitely, like, I knew I wanted to do it with her, so I would send her the script, and there were a couple instances where she was like, can I say this instead, or can I reframe this sentence? And I was like, oh yeah, 100%. But I mean, it's written with her / us in mind, and I felt like it wrote itself just because of the way she and I and my other female friends talk to each other. So I was the sole writer, but Katie and our director, the wonderful Matt Holt, definitely helped finalize it to get it to be what it was. But I did write it, yeah.
Yes, of course you did. And it was a really, really good film, and it's about two girls at a party. You're in the toilet, and you're basically discussing all the things about, from your ex-boyfriends to the party to the way that people are behaving. Again, you cover a lot of stuff, very relatable stuff, by the way, for our generation anyway, of just the stuff that goes down at parties, and previous lovers and stuff like that. It's really, really, when someone said from the Fleabag scriptures, I thought, yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see it. So yeah, it's just basically two friends basically just bitching to each other about their exes and some things in life which make them unhappy. But above all, it's funny. It's really, really funny, and it's definitely Fleabag scripture-esque. It's very, very good. So tell me about that. So as you, the writer, what made you want to write Hers?
Well, it's funny because if you listen back to the beginning of the 98%, you will hear me on multiple occasions say, I'm not going to make my own work. I don't want to write. I want to act. Why should I have to make my own work? Why can't people just cast me? I'm a trained actor. I'm here to act. And that changed. That did change.
That did.
Less
For
than
the
a
better,
year.
for the better.
Yeah. Um, and yeah, I think I felt like I did feel like that. I felt like I put my entire life into acting, filmmaking, writing. That's a whole thing in itself. Like there are very good writers and filmmakers out there. Like I think it came from insecurity that I felt like I couldn't do that. So I put on this bravado of like, I shouldn't have to, I
Mm.
deserve to be working as an actor because I'm hardworking and I'm talented and this is what I want to do. Um, and yeah, that changed because we were just talking about standby. I said in the last episode, I was standing on the red carpet, Getty Images is calling my name, and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm on my way. Easy Street, like that was it. And then that didn't happen. And a year went by, and then another year went by, and I wasn't working. And like the podcast, the podcast was born out of I need something that I am in control of from start to finish that doesn't wait on someone else giving me a yes.
Mm.
And so I just thought, you know what, if I'm not going to get any work, fuck it, fine, I'll make my own. And by this point, I had actually already been writing, but more so as a way to keep me creative. So at that time, I was working as a learning support assistant in a secondary school, helping, it was an all-girls school, so helping the students with learning difficulties or dyslexia, sort of sitting in class with them, taking notes, taking them to time out when they needed it, that sort of thing. But I had a lot of free periods in the staff room, and I had a login to, a desktop computer in the staff room. And I'm like, what have I got to do? I don't have lesson plans or anything to do. So I started writing a sitcom called Sides, and it was about a man and a woman. They were two actors living together, and it's basically the 98%, but in sitcom style. So the actor's life, working
Yeah.
at a theater, getting headshots done, going to commercial castings. And I was writing this series, thinking, wow, this would be amazing if it was ever made, but knowing that that probably wouldn't happen, but also knowing that I needed something creative to keep me focused on. Otherwise, I would spiral into the pits of depression of like, I'm not working and I'm doing this job and, I'm making minimum wage and all of that. So I was writing this series, and then I booked the Batiste commercial job, and the director of that had worked a lot in comedy. So you'll find that directors, if you do a commercial and the director has done a lot of TV or film, like actors, they will do commercial work for the money, because it pays well and it means that they can pay their bills and then pursue their filmmaking or TV endeavors. And so the director Matt had worked a lot in TV, and these Batiste commercials were very comedic. They were looking for comedic actors, and because he'd worked a lot in comedy, he vibed with this commercial because it wasn't just buy this product. Each of the commercials were these funny sort of setups of these women needing to get their hair done, really well and fast. And every scene, had different characters and different setups. So I think he was drawn to that. And I just very gutsy one day during lunch, I think I had like 3 filming days. I just started talking to him, and I was like, I'm actually writing a TV series. Would you mind reading it and giving me feedback? Which, looking back now, I think was quite bold of me, but this was still a few years by now into my career, but still, with the lights in my eyes of maybe this director will read my script and just give me £1 million to make it and cast me as the star and stuff. But ultimately, I had no one else who worked in comedy that with this exact thing that I was writing. So anyway, he was very busy, but very nicely, he read an episode that I'd written. And he liked my writing style. But I can't remember exactly now, but I think he would have said, getting a series commissioned is very difficult. Have you thought about just writing a short film or something?
Yeah.
So that's how it was born, and that's how Matt, his involvement happened. That's why I was planting the seed of Batiste, because I want to get across during my storytelling of all of this how important it is to make connections in this industry and nurture those connections, but see those connections as people and not just industry professionals that can get you what you want. Because I didn't approach Matt because he's this, successful director and I want him to cast me in more work. I approached him because he's very talented in comedy. He has experience. He was very nice, very warm, very welcoming, not intimidating. And after I worked with him, we kept in touch because of that, because he is also a caring, compassionate creative that wants to do good work, not because he's this director that's going to give me something.
Mm.
So I started writing hers, and I went in with it of the thing of going, okay, I'm not just going to start writing something just for the sake of writing it. I want to get this made. So the easiest way that you can get this made is with no money, essentially, is keeping it as small as possible. So a small cast, so it was just me and Katie, one location, which I chose as the bathroom in this house party, and the smallest crew possible.
Mm.
So I went into writing hers with these requirements in my mind of going, I have to do it this way so that I have the highest chance of getting it made. So as I said, the script sort of wrote itself. I do call myself a writer now, but because I write lots of things, not just scripts, I write other things, but I really do lean into writing what I know. So
Mm.
I'm not one of these writers like Katie is now. She's a fully commissioned playwright. She's incredible. Yes, she draws on her own experiences, but she's also just a very talented writer. I feel like my comedy and my ease of writing this just comes from writing what I know, which is being a woman and being a
Mm.
woman in the patriarchy and being a woman who struggled with not female friendships, but finding her place among fellow women, because we're all in this patriarchal construct of having to see each other as competition. And as a teenager, I was very much, I just get on with the guys, and like girls are just dramatic. And it was like, no, it's because we were all so jealous of each other because of what the patriarchy makes us feel, that we can't have these meaningful relationships. And meeting Katie and doing the podcast with her and starting as mere acquaintances and then turning into the best of friends. She's a couple years older than me. She's inspired a lot in me, but she was one of the first friends I made as an adult that really stuck, that we had no history behind each other and we really did fall in friend love. Like, I do think that's a thing, falling in love with, like, platonically. And
Yeah.
Katie and I fell for each other. We just, like, the synergy we have, like, I just love her, she loves me. And so it was no question to me of going, I feel like I can tap into this subject matter and this character because this woman is already here in front of me, sort of portraying all those things. So for those who watch the film, it's not based on true events, but it's inspired by true instances. So, for example, without giving too much away, the story I tell about when we did GCSEs and someone got jizz in her eye and she came in looking like a pirate, that actually happened when I was at school to event.
No, did it?
Yeah. Being thrown up on during sex, that's based on a true story. So, like,
Right.
things like lots of the little snippets of the conversation come from real events, but the story arc is
Yeah.
not based in real life. I don't want people to think Katie and I
Yeah.
sort of have that experience, and I won't give any more away because people
Yeah.
should go and watch it. So then I was like, okay, so where do I set it? One room. And then that's just what came to me at a bathroom at a house party. So then I sent it to Matt and he loved it. And I sent it to him again just for notes, for thoughts on the script. And he was like, do you want to make this? Because I'll direct it. And I was like, you're joking. For free, like no pay. He offered and he was like, I think you've really got something here. I love this script. It will take 2 days to film. Do you want to do it? And I was like,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Thank you very much. So then came into the logistics, which I'm eternally grateful for, sort of took over, finding a gaffer and a DOP and a sound person. And again, these were all incredible creatives who worked for, no money. I don't want to advertise getting people to work for no pay, but where I fall with that is that if you're getting paid, or if some of the crew are getting paid, but you're asking actors to work for free because we just love acting, that's the issue. With things like this, it was all collaborative. None of us were earning money. And I was very upfront by saying, please only do this if you have nothing else to do and you just want to get together with a group of filmmakers and make something fun. And that was sort of the premise of, let's just come in and let's just do this, because what else are you going to do with a weekend, a Saturday, Sunday? So in terms of finding the location, I wrote in a feminist group I was on Facebook, and I said, does anyone have a bathroom? And there were a couple of things that I did have to pay for, one of it being this location, because it was this house with 6 people, and they all sort of vacated the premises for 2 days and let us have access to their bathroom. So I gave them money for that, and I had to pay money for the lighting and the equipment, which obviously you have to do. So I did use a chunk of my savings to pay for the technical things that I needed, but in terms of the creatives being a part of it, my friend, one of my best friends, Crystal, who was actually a guest on the podcast, she served as the second OD, and then she's actually gone on to second AD. She's gone on to study filmmaking now. So yeah, it came down to 2 days. I was then producer because I was organizing all of this, and I paid for everyone's travel and I paid for everyone's food. So all of that was covered. But in terms of the filming, we were all just there having a good time. And yeah, it was this bathroom that me and Katie were in, and the DOP, and then Matt and the rest of the team were in the kitchen adjacent, sort of watching on a monitor. And I just want to shout out Matt Wicks, who was the DOP. He was excellent. And yeah, during the film, you'll hear a couple people knocking at the door, and that was Crystal and Matt. So that was the director and the second AD. They were sort of filling in those roles. And yeah, and then a friend of mine, Alex, he's a filmmaker, brilliant, just person and filmmaker, and he edited it for us, which was again so generous. That's another story, is that now he and I are co-writing a feature together. So you just never know these. And I was able to work with him because of the 48-hour sci-fi film festivals I've been a part of. He was a part of the collaborative team. So all of hers was able to happen because of my experience and the connections I'd made with brilliant people. And that's why I advise actors that I coach and consult is keep a spreadsheet of everyone you work with. Like the gaffer from a commercial that you do, their details will be on the call sheet. Keep that. You never know. And this isn't me saying, then email everyone saying, can you do this for me for free? But you might connect with someone that you then want to collaborate with on something. So yeah, we edited it. I found the editing experience quite difficult because I have OCD, which is one of the bits. So I'm very not controlling, but like I'd get caught on things that, oh, well, there's one bit in the film where I drink and I think like a bit dribbles down my chin. And I was like, I don't want to do that because that wasn't supposed to happen. And Matt and Alex would look at me and be like, but it's funny and it's fine. Like you need to relax. So thankfully, Matt sort of took over a lot of the editing, but that was a whole other experience of seeing how something is edited and how long that takes, and like how you can make a film and the acting can be amazing and everything can be great, but if it's not color graded properly, if the sound isn't good, if it doesn't look good, it's not going to be good. So like the post-production is actually, again, where I put a chunk of money of making it look good, so that we didn't go this whole process to get to the finishing point and then go, oh yeah, actually doesn't look very good in the finished product. And then the last bit of my savings was film festivals. People don't know how expensive it is. Like to submit, you have to pay for every festival that you submit to, and then you have to pay for every category that you want it to be considered for. So if I'm entering into the Hollywood Short Film Festival and I pay $50 and I want Katie and I to be considered for Best Actress, I have to pay another $20. And if I want it to be considered for Best Short Film, I have to pay another $30. And if I want it to be considered for women in film, I have to pay another $40. So, and that's for every single festival. So oftentimes when The Color of Spring went to a lot of festivals, and how wonderful for me to win so many awards. But that was thanks to the director, having this chunk of money to be able to pursue that. So any filmmakers listening, don't go in blind. Know that the film festival circuit, if that's where you want to go to get the laurels and sort of get the bloggers and the critics, that's fantastic, but you will need a solid chunk of money set aside to be able to do that. And yeah, it was just a great experience, something I'm so grateful I did. I'm so proud of myself for doing it. It's been received so well. I didn't really do much of a push to like get it out there. For me, it was like I wanted a job and I wanted something to show that I'd done, and I wanted to act with my best friend and have a great time. So I'm a bit maybe too modest in advertising it. So maybe I'll take this chance to say to those listening, please do go watch, because I have had nothing but amazing responses. Men seem to find it hilarious and women find it hilarious, but also incredibly relatable. And yeah, if you want a peek into, or wondering, I wonder which of these stories is true in this script, watch it and then ask me, because I'll tell you the real life
Yeah.
stories.
Is the Bridget Jones underwear, is that a true story?
Yes. Well, I mean, those was underwear that I got from like a Costco, and then wearing it, I was like, these are the most disgusting, you know, underwear ever, but they're actually the most comfortable ever. So that's actually my underwear wearing, yes.
Yeah. Oh wow.
This is what I mean, write what you know. Sometimes life is funnier than fiction.
Oh
So
yeah, you can't. I mean, there were so many moments I thought you can't write this stuff. You can't unless it happens. Like the girl with the with the pirate eye and stuff. From that thing. And I tell you what, I'm not going to ask if this is a true story or not, because it might be a bit too much to sort of delve into really. But there's one scene towards the end, without giving, it doesn't really give too much away, but you're talking about an ex lover or something like that both of you had sort of known, and you said, "Oh, does he do this during sex? This face?" And I was,
yeah, that was not based on a true story.
okay,
The other, like some of the other things around, I think I see it like the sick and yeah, the other stuff was sort of inspired by other stories I've heard. But that I liked that moment because in my head, visually, it was very funny, which I think it is in the end.
oh, it is, yeah.
Like the way, I pull that face and then Katie's like, oh my God, yes, like the demon headmaster. Oh my God, yeah. Like it's that moment where they go from, the tension beforehand to sort of then going into their joint experiences. And it's funny you bring that up actually, and the way that I just said that of seeing it is when I write, the movie is already in my mind. That's why
Mm,
I can find writing a bit annoying sometimes, because I'm a very visual person. So
yeah.
I'm already watching. When I was writing hers, I was already watching it in my mind. And I was like, in my mind, it's already made. And now I have
Yeah.
to go through the slog of actually making it.
No, I do
But
the same. I do the same.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's all I have another short film that I'm trying to get funding for called Celine. And for months I was writing that movie in my head, and I can see it now. I can see the scenes, I can see the characters, I can see how it's going to be filmed, I can see the finished product, and now I have the written script. And so that when I sit down to write it, it pours out of me because I've already written it in my mind. I don't sit down and go, right, I need to write 10 pages today. Where do I start? I do it the opposite. I spend weeks thinking about something. And actually, when I was writing hers, there were a couple times. Now, this is, I think my brain is maybe, I'm not saying that everyone can do this, but I write in my sleep. So there was some dialogue, a big chunk of dialogue in hers that I dreamt up in the moment before deep sleep and being awake. And I would either dream of me writing it or I'd dream of me and Katie saying it. And then I would literally wake up and I'd write it word for word because my short-term memory is quite impressive. And so like my subconscious was already writing it, which again is, if people are listening and thinking, oh, I want to make something and I don't know how, write what you know, because it will write itself. And then you can get feedback from other people in terms of structure. For me, dialogue comes a lot easier for me than structure and conflict and act 1, act 2, act 3. This is the synopsis, sort of plan that you should follow. That's not really how I write. As an actor, I write the characters and the dialogue. Like that's where I find the stories, because going all the way back to the beginning of this conversation, actors making characters human, that's how I write. But you might be someone that does, vibe with structure more. So just find how you work that makes it excitable for you and just write something. Like I have a whole document on my laptop of random scenes that I've written that aren't actually from fully fledged films. They're just ideas that I've thought up that I thought would make for an interesting scene or an interesting character. And then I write as that character, as if I'm auditioning for this character and they want me to improv a monologue. Well, then I'll write that. And then the story comes from how I imagine this character to be.
Yeah, no, I did the same. I don't know if you've done this, but on my notes app in my phone, I just have this folder and it's called Random Quotes from People. And I'll read a couple of them out actually if you want. It's just genuinely because life is so, look, like something you said earlier about you just, life is funnier than fiction sometimes. Yeah, sometimes you hear something and you go, I can't, did that really just happen? I mean, yeah. And so I thought, so yeah, I do a bit of writing myself actually. I'm writing a one-man show at the moment. It's nearly done. I've got a few more things I need to sort of add in, but yeah, it's nearly done. And it's based all about my experiences in pubs because I've worked in pubs for a number of years now, and just some of the stuff that you hear or see behind the bar, and without giving too much away, us as the bartenders, or if you're a waiter or a waitress, or you're working behind the desk at like at reception, like in a gym or in a big office block or whatever, but if you're working with the public in hospitality, we see and hear a lot more than you think. And there's a lot more to our job than going, hello, what would you like? That'll be £2.50, please. Thank you. Have a nice day. There's so much more to it than that, and the show is about exploring the deeper recesses of what this job is and what we as hospitality people go through. And hopefully that will be on in the West End next year. So
yes, coming to a theatre near you.
All putting it out there, all positive stuff. But yeah, I've got this random folder here. The very first one, I was out for a walk in Guildford one day, and I walked past this couple, and the lady turned to her husband and just said, "This isn't really. I don't think this is funny. I just thought it was interesting." She literally just said, "Who doesn't like a twinkly light in the garden?"
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I say to actors as well, especially working in hospitality, there are people that I've come in contact with doing, working in hospitality that are characters that I can draw on in future of like, oh no, this person really was like that naturally. I'm not putting this on.
Yeah.
My notes app is a whole, I think I have like 700 notes in my notes app.
Yeah. No, I remember walking past like a group of guys, and one of them said to the other, something like, it's all about focusing on cohesion. And I was like, okay, that sort of sounds relatively okay. And then I walked past this other one, and this guy just turned to his mate and generally just said, in the bright light of day, God, they'll bend you over and Vaseline you up for that. And I'm thinking, And I'm thinking, where was that conversation going? And but I just thought, but you hear these things like in life, and some of them aren't really like, funny, but you just think, where have they come from? And of course, if so, I've got this new policy now. I'm sure you have the same one. If I hear anything like that, like it doesn't have to be funny, it doesn't have to be anything. If it strikes a chord in you, just write it down because you
Yeah.
never know where it might take you. I mean, there's a few things I've looked through it and I've actually given me ideas to write about in the latest draft and everything. And I thought, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. And it's all come from just listening to other people and
Yeah.
listening to random stuff, which doesn't make any sense, but it helps. And I think as writers, we're kind of like listening to the world all the time. We're listening to dialogue we're having with other people. We're listening to even arguments that we have with family or friends. We are listening to basic, even just like some dialogue you have with each other in the car going to like Tesco or something, because sometimes,
The
yeah,
lens that we view life is very different as a creative, as an artist. And yeah,
yeah.
like draw on that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's one, when I go and see plays, I love seeing plays, but you can hear in the dialogue that the writer has been around the people of this play, and you can go, wow, that really, really works. Like when you go and see Shakespeare, Shakespeare's like view of the world is, I think any creative would love or writer would love to sort of aspire to be Shakespeare, but but the way he sees, they saw the world, the way he's able to communicate things, that's what writers do. That's what good writers do, because and then of course sometimes you watch stuff on TV and you think, oh, that writing's absolutely terrible. Why the hell is that there? But it's all about being truthful, and sometimes people can just make shit up and it doesn't work. But yeah, but hers, when you heard it was from the Fleabag scriptures, I mean that's high praise. That's very
Yeah.
high praise.
And it was at that time where, so it was 2019. So, during the Fleabag hype. And I had heard and I had read, fellow female writers being described as, or sort of saying, oh, can we not compare every female comedian to Fleabag? Like there's more out there. And I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, I was like, no, this is the best compliment I could have ever hoped for. Because like I don't know what more to say about that. It was I just love that because Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her whole story with how she made Fleabag and making it as a one-woman show and taking it to Edinburgh and then getting a transfer to London Soho Theatre and then a BBC producer watching it and saying that he wanted it. Like that's like the dream that happens, isn't it? But in terms of the writing, she broke onto the scene, giving a new perspective, new language, new way that we can view the modern woman. And yes, we should have more of that, and that shouldn't be the only thing that we compare it to. But at the same time, if that is one of the only things that you can compare it to, that's the highest praise I could have hoped for. And yeah, like hers is very 18 plus. It's not safe for work. Like when I do
Ooh.
send it to industry people, I do have to say, do not watch this around your children.
Yeah, there's mature audiences only.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
But also sorry, dog drinking water ASMR.
that's right.
But I love that, and it's very raw to me, hers. Like as I said, the way that it wrote itself, these are this is the way I would speak to my friends. And the fact that we don't see this in mainstream, TV and film is just ridiculous, because it's still upholding this idea of like, this is what women are and this is what female actors can play. And instead, when we take the mic ourselves and we're like, no, this is actually it, when it's received well like that, I was incredibly happy about that.
Yeah, there's a scene in the play version of Fleabag, which I remember, which I saw in hers, sorry, which reminded me of a scene in Fleabag. Actually, and I can definitely see the links and why they would compare it to that. There's a scene where Fleabag just looks at the wall and goes, I stare at the wall. No, I stare at a handprint on the wall when I had a threesome on my period. I just, and I thought, and I thought, I remember thinking at the time, okay, and that's how I reacted to some of the stories in your film. I was like, oh wow, so
Yeah.
like, this girl came to school, she had jizz in her eye, and I thought,
And it was true. Yeah, it's like I didn't, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I didn't write hers with Fleabag in mind, going, I want to do something like that. I just wrote what I wanted to write. So that just shows that it's like what I was saying about unknown actors, of people acting so surprised and wow, we found this, diamond in the rough. It's like there are hundreds of other Phoebe Waller-Bridges out there. I'm not
oh
saying that to like
yeah,
detract from her, but like
yeah.
let's see what else. If you like Fleabag, let's see what else there is out there that's like it, because I promise it's not just this one isolated thing.
No, no, there's many, many other things like that. So, for anyone who wants to check this film out, it's on Vimeo. Can they check it
Yes.
out there? Yeah. So,
And it's in my link tree on my social media as well. Or you can Google hers Alexa Morden and the link should come up.
yeah, cool. So, for anyone who's watching or listening, go to Alexa's Instagram. You'll find the links there. Go check those films out. They are brilliant. And
Another exciting thing, the BFI tweeted it as what's hot to watch.
wow,
Oh,
the
I know.
BFI,
What?
the
The
BFI.
BFI, yeah, the BFI Institute, the British Film Institute. I woke up one day, so I still have that tweet screenshotted and like
Oh,
saved on my hard
yes.
drive, because
Screenshot
it's
those
got
moments. Yeah.
yeah, a thumbnail of us with like the laurels, and then it got, it got a couple of like laurels awards, but it got recognized as, best female short at Female Voices Rock. No, yeah, best women short at Female Voices Rock, which is a New York film festival. And like things like that, and the BFI tweet is not anything I ever imagined could or would happen when I was sat down writing it. So those moments were really, really exciting. So yeah, the BFI, I think you should watch it, folks. So,
Yeah.
if you don't
That's
want to listen to them, that's a you problem.
yeah, it definitely is. Also, I've just looked at my notes again. It was a special mention at the Independent Short Awards in LA.
Yes, it was.
It's going places, mate. You are going places. Okay.
And then I am Matt even, and a couple people asked me, they thought that it could make a really good series.
Hmm.
So I started
Yeah.
early, like late 2019, talking to Matt, okay, can we sit down with a BBC commissioner? Like, can I talk to someone? Should I start writing this as a series? And then COVID hit. And then
Oh
I
dear.
can't do that. And that just sort of fell by the wayside, sadly. But
Start those conversations again. Start those
yeah.
conversations again. Honestly. And if you need any actors for future episodes, you know where to find me. Love to do it. And film it over here, by the way. I don't
Oh,
live
of
in
course,
Canada.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
British sense of humor for sure.
Yeah, definitely. No, because we'll put that out there. Seriously, I'm not just saying this just for the podcast. Please do get those conversations going with Matt again. That we want. I think people absolutely go for this. They really, really
Any
will.
producers, commissioners listening out there, you know where to find me.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Let's get this thing going. Let's get it going. And finally, today, like I said, there are so many other short films we could talk about. Just do a quick special mention to Stuffy and to October Horse. And I think October Horse was filmed in like a day or something,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
so The Color of Spring, which is the feature film that I led, I had a few days after filming wrapped before I flew home. And so I said to the crew on one of the last days, I was like, right, we have this equipment. Does anyone want to like shoot a short film? And the first assistant director was like, hell yeah. So we sat down, we put together this, it's like a micro short, it's like 3 minutes long, put together this script, even though it's not really any dialogue, it's all very visual. And we filmed it one day, sunrise to sunset, a micro crew. It was like me, Joseph directing, Noah, who was, doing everything else, Tabor, who was doing the sound, and then Kimmy, who was doing incredible makeup and like VFX and
Mm.
bloody. I'm basically very bloody and gory in it, which I love. And that was it, essentially. It was like 5 of us, and then Connor, who was like driving, Brandon, who was driving. But yeah, micro crew, because again, I just want to make stuff. I just want to make stuff. If there's a chance for me to make stuff, let's do it. And we did. So that was all the way back in 2019, but it's only now finally been completed, being sent to film festivals, horror film festivals. So yeah, this is another lesson for people listening, of connecting with people. And just, if you've got a camera, if you've got some sort of sound recording device, just go out and try something, because even if it is not the most put together or visually impressive thing, there's plenty of film festivals out there that still want to see all forms of filmmaking. So my 2 latest short films, Stuffy and October Horse, those are the ones coming out this year. There's a bunch of other short films I've done, and then also a bunch of feature films I've done, 2 that I've played the lead role. But like The Rise of the Craze and The Fall of the Craze, which are my first step into the film world 10 years ago, where I first met my good friend Phil Dunster, who now people will know for all of his incredible work he's done since. Like, that was an amazing experience. I met some people there that I still talk to now, like Erin, who I mentioned, the second AD who did a podcast episode. I met her doing the Craze films.
Yeah.
Beautiful Devils, The War Below, The Black Prince, all of these independent and non-independent. Like The Black Prince was like a Hollywood Bollywood film, which is a whole experience in itself. Like, the main guy was known as the Ed Sheeran of India. He was like this super famous musician who was playing his role, very high budget thing. So yeah, and then Lost in Time is a feature film that I filmed last year that I'm waiting to hear about what the sort of latest with that is. So yeah, just saying it all like this, it's like, oh gosh, like I've done a lot of film, but as we all know, many times between that of no acting work. But yeah, it's all.
You've worked with Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso.
Yes, he's one of my good friends. So we met.
This guy.
Yeah.
I was thinking, Phil Dunster, where do I know that name from? So you've worked with, wow, you've worked with Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso. That's
I mean,
amazing.
this is a classic actor's life story. Is we met on the set for The Rise of the Craze, and we play love interests. So all of my scenes were with Phil, and it was my first job out of drama school, and it was his first job out of drama school. So it was very exciting for both of us. And then it's a perfect example of sort of 98% life, because he's gone on to be Jamie Tarr, and now plenty of other things. Like, yes, Ted Lasso sort of put him into the mainstream, but he was doing incredible work before that. He premiered in Pink Mist, this amazing play. He worked with Kenneth Branagh at the Gielgud Theatre. He's done, smaller roles in these big feature films. He was in Catastrophe. So people sort of look at overnight success like that, and there is really no such thing as overnight success. Like, he has an incredible body of work behind him, and now he's just written and produced his own short film, and he's using the connections that he has to make more work, and now he's going on to doing lots of other stuff. I know he's rehearsing for Oklahoma right now. So it it's we both started at the same starting block, and I have a podcast about being in the 98%, and he's very much not in the 98%, but he is one of the nicest, kindest, again, humble, like incredibly talented, but also really, really wonderful person. And his partner, Ellie, as well. This is weird. Ellie was in The Color of Spring. So when I got married, Phil and Ellie were guests at our wedding. And I said to Ellie, I'll see you in a couple months in Halifax. And we played best friends in The Color of Spring. So again, a weird small world. But she now directs. She just directed the latest series of Trying for Apple TV. So yeah, it's been wonderful to watch him go from strength to strength, because you see a lot of sort of, there are lots of knobheads in this industry, but he is absolutely not one of them. And yeah, it's really funny looking back of pictures of us on set in the Craze films, because God, who knew back then, like what would be in store for both of us and how different our, industry experiences were going to be. But at the heart of it, we were just two graduates on a film set. He was having to teach me how to smoke a cigarette because I'd never done it before. And it looked very bad and very wooden, and just lots of, fun experiences from that. And yeah, he's a great person, great actor, definitely one to watch if you're not watching him already.
Yeah, big shout out to him. Yeah, I've watched Ted Lasso and I thought it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So if anyone who is stuck for a series to watch that. Yeah, I mentioned Cristo Fernandez. Have you seen Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
the
can
guy.
also want to watch my mate Philly.
Just checking. But yeah, the guy who plays Danny Rojas, Cristo Fernandez, is a friend of mine, and he came to see us at drama school. He came to watch our showcase rehearsals and our showcase, and yeah, he's just a brilliant guy, a fantastic guy. Just big shout out to him. I remember I said in one previous episode we were kind of like our post showcase party. We went out in Guildford one night. It was we stood, I'm there, stood by Danny Rojas drinking tequila with him. And I was just, he was like, Ollie, do you want tequila? And I was like, yeah, I'll have tequila. Yeah, I was like, go on, do you want more tequila? I was like, so I'm just there drinking tequila with Cristo. Oh, he's a brilliant guy. Yeah.
Like that, isn't it? Where we go, oh, they are just people like
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
As actors, we watch people doing these dream roles and these dream jobs, and I'd do anything to do that. But at the end of the day, they're just actors that audition for this thing that happened. They didn't know when it started what it would turn out to be. But now it turned into that. And some people go down the route of, now I'm a big hot shot and all of this. But then there's people like Phil, and I'm sure your friend, who are just creatives looking for their
Yeah.
next job, or
They're
like
just
all of us.
completely down to earth, genuine, lovely people. And that's it. That's
Yeah.
what that's what they are at the end of the day. Obviously there are some dickheads out there and you stay away from them. But yeah, no, just amazing, beautiful people. Cool. So The Color of Spring is your leading role, your leading lady role, your leading role today. With many more to come, I'm sure. But it's available on Apple TV and also as well as Amazon Prime, and it's a great film. And of course, you play the lead, who is an actress, and it's also great about it is you're doing Shakespeare in it as well, which is the common theme throughout the whole thing as well. You received 40 Best Actress nominations and won 25 from Worldwide
Yeah,
Screen.
after I said this last time, I was like, was that right? So I think so. The film got accepted into 40 plus film festivals,
Yeah,
and then as I was saying, thankful for Paul Andrew Kimball, the director, that was then able to put me forward to be considered for Best Actress. So I can't remember the exact amount of nominations, but I ended up winning 25 Best Actress awards from worldwide film festivals, from Chicago to India to New York to Romania. And yeah, but as I think I said last time, it was when COVID hit. So sadly, I couldn't go to any of the festivals, but
yeah,
still, I'm just so grateful for that whole
yeah.
experience.
Just a couple of questions on that, really. So the first one is you mentioned last time it was mostly a night shoot throughout the whole thing.
To begin with, yeah, the first block was
First
night.
plot, sorry.
We were filming. We were filming in a theater.
Yeah.
They would only let us have access to it during, late night hours. And then also the theater was haunted. Like the writer director is also a ghost hunter. So interesting. So like he's telling me about these hauntings and these ghosts, and I'm sat there at like 3 a.m. like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first was nights, and then a bunch of day shoots on location in like these cabins in the woods and by the coast. And then I think we finished towards the end with a couple more night shoots. But yeah, night shoots aren't the most fun.
No, no. I mean, I've done it, once earlier in the year, and I just the thought, no. I just when you when I tell you what's very weird is that when you get home after filming, and you walk through the door and it's 8 o'clock in the morning and you've been awake all night and
Like,
you're
I haven't eaten dinner. Do I need dinner or breakfast or sleep or
yeah,
what?
and I would come in and I would go, all right, I'll have a coffee, and then afterwards I go, wait, no, 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 I shouldn't have a coffee. I've been awake. I don't want to wake myself back up. But yeah, but I remember just it's very weird when you're walking in and it's the morning and you're feeling like I should have been to bed. I should have more energy now. But then you'll find yourself going to sleep at 9 in the morning. It's very, very peculiar. It's very,
And
very
then you
weird.
have to get back on schedule for the next day to be awake in the day,
Yeah.
for the next day shoot. So yeah, it was luckily because as we know, working TV and film, there's a lot of waiting around. But thankfully, because I was performing Shakespeare, so my character Sarah was performing as Lady M in
Mm.
a
In a
performance of
th
the Scottish play.
in a
So
theater as well.
yeah, so that was really interesting and fun for me because I'm performing Shakespeare, but I have to perform it for screen, but also kind of for theatre. So I don't want to be too over the top because I've got a camera in my face, but I don't want to be too understated because then it looks like I'm performing for camera. But I feel like I did it quite well of finding that
Oh,
balance
you
between
did. You
yeah,
did.
like
Yeah.
screen and theatre. And also yeah, performing in front of no audience. But then like there's one bit I think where it cuts to Jamie Moscato, who plays my boyfriend Sam in the film, and he's in the audience and he's watching me, and he's obviously surrounded by people to make it look like there was an audience, but really there was only like 7 people in that one thing. The rest of the audience was clear. But yeah, I love that because I love Shakespeare. Shakespeare's always been a real love of mine. And to be able to do both at the same time, star in a movie and perform Shakespeare for the opening scenes. Like when I auditioned for this, it was one of those like obviously we want every job that we audition for, right? But you know, once in a while one comes along and you're like, yeah, no, this was written for me and I must get this role. And not often do we actually see it through and get it. So when I read the script and I saw the Shakespeare and I saw that she was an actor and I knew that my lived experience could play into it so well, I really, really wanted this role. And it was one self tape, and then it was a callback self tape, and then it was an in-person final round when the director Paul and one of the other actors, Holly, who's a friend of Paul's, so she had already been cast. They flew over from Halifax to London and held a final round with Matt Weston, who was the casting director, lovely guy. And I went in for my final callback, and I had the scene prepared, and it was another one of Lady M's speeches that then went into a scene like as Sarah. And sort of I sat down and Paul was up talking about things, and he actually brought up the 98%. He was like, so I listened to your podcast and I had this moment sat there and I felt like the blood leave my body because my initial thought was, oh, because everything we talk about on the podcast, I felt like I had to be this booked and busy, very impressive, you know, highly sought after actor. And when I heard that this director was listening to the podcast and hearing me speak about all the jobs I didn't get and all the hardships I was facing and the
Yeah.
desperation and just the plight of being an actor, my initial response was, oh my God, I've ruined it. Like, I've ruined it. He's not going to want me. He wants someone who's impressive, who has done all this stuff and has this impressive CV. And yes, I'd worked, and yes, I'd been in this BAFTA nominated thing, but I'd openly talked on the podcast about being out of work for a couple of years. And but then after that initial fear, I sat there and I thought, well, I don't have to pretend. He knows the truth. I have nothing to show of myself but what I'm here to do in this room. And it was actually sort of liberating because
Mm.
if I didn't have to pretend for him, I didn't have to pretend for myself. And if he was telling me that he was really enjoying the podcast and he found it really insightful as a director, he was like, you've changed now how I'm going to work with actors because of the insight I've gained from your podcast. I was like, oh, well, if he knows that I've been out of work for the past however long, I don't have to pretend. So let's just be here and be myself and do my reading of this scene. So we had this really great chat. And then Paul goes, okay, well, thanks for coming in. We will be in touch. And he didn't ask to see my scenes. So I'm sat there going,
Oh,
no, 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 no. Like, I can't be leaving here stressing that you listen to my podcast and now you don't want me because I'm like this
yeah, that's the
unsuccessful, and
fear,
I'm
isn't
saying
it?
that in
Yeah.
air quotes, yeah, like actor. Um, so I said to him, um, can I do my scenes, please? I've been working on the scenes. And he said, yeah, okay. Now jump forward to us being on set. He said to me, I already knew by that point that you were my Sarah. I just wanted to meet you to, know that we could get along and hear what you thought of the film. So he already knew at that point that he wanted me to play the role. But there I am talking myself out of it, going, he doesn't want me. He's making these judgments about me.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
thinks that
yeah.
I'm not wanted, that no one else has cast me. Meanwhile, it's the total opposite.
Yeah.
So I'm forcing him to watch me do my good acting as if I need to prove something. Meanwhile, he already knew that I was perfect for the role. So I forced him to sit through my Lady M again in
Yes.
person. And I
Yes.
performed.
I've come here for a reason.
Exactly. Yeah. I just knew that I couldn't leave that room feeling like I'd done anything less than hitting every point, and thing that I wanted to hit. And so I remember leaving it and going to Charing Cross and waiting for my train back to Catford and calling my dad. And he was like, so how did it go? And I just went, I think it went really, really well. And you don't often feel that, right? You often leave auditions. I mean, now everything's self-tapes, but when it used to be in the room, you talk yourself out a bit of going, don't get too excited. You've done it, just forget about it now, just forget about it. But there was something about this project from the beginning, because they also said they wanted people with Canadian passports, which I had. So I also ticked that box. And there was just something about it where I was like, I think this could be it. And I don't want to let myself believe that too much, but like, Dad, I did really, really well, and I think he really liked me. And I have a picture of myself that I took, because I was like, I just want to remember this moment, because whatever happens, if I don't get this job, I want to remember how good I feel in this moment, and that I spoke my truth in that audition, and I didn't try and be a version of myself that I thought that they wanted, and I did my scenes in the way I wanted, not in the way that I thought they wanted me to do it. And I feel really good about that. So whatever happens, I want to remember this moment. And so I have a selfie of me like grinning, at my phone. And sometimes that will pop up as like a memory on my phone or whatever. And it just fills me with good feelings, because the right projects do come for you. And yes, I would have been right for the other 50 things I auditioned for before The Color of Spring. But to get that one that I really felt aligned with me in so many ways, also because it was an independent film, which I love. I love the collaborative process. I love that everyone's there for the same reason, not for some big paycheck. I love the more personable experience you can have with the director, and you sharing your thoughts on the character and your thoughts on the dialogue, and then, come back and let you maybe change things or interpret things differently. Like, everything about it I really wanted. And then to get it was just exhilarating, like one of those moments that we all just work towards and dream of in this industry. And it was really, really great.
No, it sounds like everything you said there. I think it articulates exactly what we go through in auditions and self-tape prep, or those meetings afterwards. It's the power of the mind is something quite, it's very real. It can tell you, like you're saying there about, it could tell you like, oh, he's never going to cast you. He's heard your podcast. He probably thinks this. He probably thinks, "Rah, rah, rah." But on the total opposite, you were already cast anyway. He knew he wanted you for the part, and I'm sure, like I have, and I'm sure many others, we like your podcast. We enjoyed listening to it, and you do some incredible things with it as well. You mentioned earlier, we were talking about true crime when we started this chat, about you helped to bring down someone through the podcast. You have offered so much advice to actors and people just in the arts, and pretty informed other people of what this industry is all about. And I'm sure he's listened to that, And not only are you a great actress, but he's also gone, wow, this girl knows her stuff and
Yeah.
she's
And
passionate.
we're all creatives. So I'm sure as a filmmaker himself, he's gone through tough things in the industry. And so, I'm saying to actors listening, if you go into an audition and they do that dreaded thing of asking you what you've been up to recently, and you're racking your
Oh,
brain
yeah.
trying to figure out what to say so that it sounds like you've been busy and wanted and sought after, think about this. What if instead you said the truth of, to be totally honest, I haven't worked for the past year, but instead I've been using that time to write, make films, do play read-throughs with my friends. I've taken self-tape courses. I've done a couple workshops. That says to me so much more about who you are as a performer and who you are as someone that they want to work with than if you went, oh well, I did this thing which was really 3 years ago, but I'll pretend that it was 6 months ago to make me look good. Like that whole thing of, and now knowing what I know now, looking back, and Paul said, he said even from my first self-tape that he was like, that's my Sarah, but he has to go through and he wants to see other people, he wants to meet other people. But I was talking myself out of it when really everything else was giving me a yes. Why would he even why would he fly over to another country and invite me for an in-person meeting if he thought my podcast was silly and actually I didn't have much to offer? He's not going to do that. Like everything is giving us a yes. Don't stand there and talk yourself out of it based off of, warped ideas of what it means to be a good, successful actor.
Yeah. It it's the mind is what it can do. It's scary, but we are able to fix it. You can fix it simply by going, I am good enough and I am worthy of everything that I want to achieve. It's that simple. Just yeah. I know it's easier said than done, but just keep at it and change that mindset and it does wonders really and allow the universe to guide you from there on in.
Yeah.
But yeah, The Color of Spring, it's a really, really it's a noir film. If anyone doesn't know, it's shot in black and white. And it's a real insight into performance and also and I think in the actor's personal life as well. And that's all I'll say. I won't say any more than that. But yeah, catch it on Amazon, on Apple TV, and go and check it out, guys. It is a really, really nice film, and I'm sure you'll see Alexa in all of her wonderful actor greatness, which you really, really do very, very,
Yeah.
very,
I
very
mean,
well.
finally, after a lot of, I was in Skins, I was in Fresh Meat, I worked for the BBC, but they were all there's no small roles, but they were
There are
smaller
no
roles.
small parts.
This role, finally, I was like, I can sink my teeth into it. And I had this whole character backstory. And, Paul was like, I've never worked with an actor so thorough. And it was just like, yeah, because this is what I want to do and it's fun and like being able to make the most out of it. So finally, yeah, really sinking my teeth into it. And I'm really proud of the work I did. I think I think I did good work in it.
Yeah,
And
of
I
course.
didn't let the fear or the pressure of, oh my God, I'm leading my first role and I have to do well and I have to impress. Instead, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. I have been ready for this for, how years and years and years to play a lead role in a film. This is what I'm made for. I am ready for this. So talk yourself into it. Don't talk yourself out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I just got a few more questions for you, Alexa, then we can sort of finish up. But the first one is just going back, just staying on Color of Spring just for 1 second. How did you find that balance when you were doing the Lady M speeches? In fact, just very quickly, I've got another story. Very, very quickly. I went to see Ken Branagh told this story of this one company who did the Scottish play at the RSC, and the one director, he didn't care about the superstition. He said, no, it's not real. No, I'm just going to say it. And he was saying the M word around the whole theatre the whole time. And on one night, it was nearly a full house, apart from one empty chair in the very front row. And during the fight scene, at one point, the tip of one of the swords comes off and shoots directly into the empty chair in the front row. And from that point onwards, he never said the word again. He never said it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I get it. It's like, oh, you don't say it around a theater, but also, as I said, I have OCD, so I can't say it ever now. It's just in my mind. I will
Yeah.
never say the word in full. Don't know why, because the world will end if I do. I know it's stupid, but yeah, never. And even when we were filming, like if anyone, I was like, don't say that. Don't say that. You have to go outside and turn around 3 times and spit on the floor now.
Yeah, just don't say in the theatre, guys. It's sacrilege if you do that. But and of course, you don't want the bad luck as well. So but yeah, if the tip of the sword comes off and shoots into that empty chair, if that's not a warning, I don't know what is. So don't say it. So yeah, how did you find that balance between performing on stage but for the camera?
Big thing with Shakespeare that I learned early on is you have to know what you're saying. So when I was younger, a teenager, I'd perform in Shakespeare stuff and I'd say all the fancy words and lines because it sounds fancy without actually knowing, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? The moment that you learn, she's not saying, where are you? She's saying, why do you have to be called Romeo?
Yeah.
Why do you have to be?
Why a Montague? Why are you a Montague? Why am I a Capulet? Why can't we just be
Yeah,
together? Yeah.
exactly. So I just viewed it as I I the scenes that I was doing are the scenes, the outdamned spot, the raven himself is horse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlement. So they were quite the dramatic ones. So my facial expressions are quite large, I guess, but I kept the language trying to be more insular. So right, let me try and think of an example. Like when I'm dreaming and I'm doing outdone spot, and then I say, no more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting. Instead I brought it to a whisper, no more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting. So like the drama was still there, but just making it smaller isn't the right word, but more introspective, if that's the right word, of like the
More
camera being,
condensed or
yeah,
something.
the
Yeah.
camera being right here. So less outwards to the theater, keeping all of that bigness, but just shrinking it into like, okay, if the person I'm talking to is right here, because the camera is right here, how does that change things? So like the Raven, I recently did the Raven himself speech for an audition here for a Shakespeare company in a big rehearsal room. So it was very much the Raven himself is horse that croaks, like, but
Raven
for,
himself is horse, and you're like,
yeah,
okay, calm down.
exactly. But like when with the screen, it's all in the eyes, screen work, it's all in the eyes, the inner monologue. So instead of presenting it outwards, it's more like the raven himself is horse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. I don't mean this is cringy to perform, but I'm trying to
No,
get
that's
across
great.
like
That's great.
making it, because she's just speaking at the end of the day. Yes, the words are Shakespeare, but what is she saying? It's the classic thing. What are her given circumstances? What is her what's the word, intention? What's her objective, her super objective?
Super objective. Yeah.
And yeah, and having the drama there, but just bringing it more into like the face and her inner monologue of what's going on inside, instead of presenting it to whoever's at the back row.
Mm. Yeah, no, it was a really fine balance there. Yeah, it was really good. It reminds me of did you see Judi Dench's version, directed by Trevor Nunn, with Ian McKellen? Yeah, because I think that was filmed in the theater. I think I'm not sure. It probably was, but yeah, that was kind of, they found a really lovely balance, even though their performances were, obviously they were theatrical, but they had the camera there. So it was all about just, yeah. No, but it's really simple. Just use I think, and also the camera does the work for you. So you might not feel like you're doing a lot, but you watch it back and you go, oh, actually the camera does a lot more work for me than I think. So yeah, the camera's your friend in screen, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a scene partner itself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really good. Really good. Good stuff. Alexa, I could honestly, we've still got so much more to talk about. We talk about Stuffy and Tober Horse and everything. So I'd love to, do you know what? I'd love to do another one with you just about just finishing off on your short films and also just the crime stuff as well. I really want to delve into your expose of a certain person that you've managed to find out on your show and stuff like that. So yeah, we've got so much more to talk about, and yeah, definitely one definitely for more episodes in the future. Yeah, absolutely for sure. So the last question for today, it's always a different one for a part two guest. Um, what makes you happy?
Oh my God, so much. And if you asked me this 6 years ago, it would have been acting, and that's it. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else but acting.
Yeah.
So obviously acting. What makes me happy? Animals, eating really tasty vegan food.
Mhm.
My desk, I bought myself this refurbished vintage wooden desk where I sit and I write and I journal and I do my tarot readings and I just, all sorts. Being with my loved ones, where I live, being by the ocean, being in any body of water. Uh, what really makes me happy is hearing from people that my work or the podcast has helped their life or transformed things for them. What really makes me happy recently is when I get testimonials from clients from my acting with Alexa of, one actor said that their hour consultation with me was the most valuable hour of their entire career so far. So I think I'll end there because I think that sums it all up of what makes me happy is being true to myself. And I actually have a ring that my parents got me on my 18th birthday that I wear every day. And it's a Shakespeare quote, "To thine own self be true."
Hmm.
So, what really makes me happy is being true to myself, which inspires other people to also be true to themselves and what's best for them and doing things in the way that really works for them. And ultimately, yeah, just being on set, being on stage, being with fellow creatives, telling stories, doing good work, having a good time with good people.
Amen. Alexa, thank you so much. It's been an honor to talk to you again, and I've learned so much from you again, and everything else. And like I say, we've got so much more to talk about. I want to talk more about true crime, your own expose, which you talk about on your own podcast, and yeah, so much more to do. So much more to do. If I was to talk about it now.
Oh, waffling on.
No, no, not in the slightest. No, no. If we were to delve into all that, God, we'd be here for another 3 hours or something. That would be absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no, but I mean that in a good way, of course. I'm not taking the piss, but yeah, fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. Just hang on. We'll finish it there. We'll have a little debrief afterwards. But yeah, wow, fantastic. What an episode. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This has been the Uncensored Critic podcast, and I will be back very, very soon. And for the second time, Alexa Morden, thank you so much.
Thank you.